Fala aí, rapaziada, como é que vocês estão? Eu sou o Bruno Borges.
E eu sou Gabriel Souza e nós somos a Brasil Bodybuilding News.
Amigos, e bora falar neste vídeo sobre as repercussões gringas dos físicos do Ramon e do Cbum em suas atualizações. Como vocês acompanharam, o meio maromba parou nos últimos dias. Primeiro com as atualizações do Ramon e ontem com as atualizações do Cbum, gigantesco também na mídia gringa. Muitas páginas e jornalistas exaltaram o shape do Ramon, porém o nick do maior canal do mundo de notícias sobre fisiculturismo não pareceu tão impressionado com o Ramon, e apesar de elogiar, fez questão de falar que o Ramon não deve evoluir tanto em cima do palco, porque ele está próximo do seu limite de peso. E ao falar sobre o Cbum, ele comentou que o Cbum tem muita vantagem e que deve ganhar novamente o Olímpia. Isso na opinião dele. Confiram aí as opiniões do Nick e deixem seus comentários.
Classic physique stories. The first one being the latest updates from Ramon DINO. These are really the first really revealing updates that we've gotten from Ramon during this Olympia prep. This is 4.5 weeks out, and according to some of the comments on the Brazilian pages, it looks like apparently his weight in these updates is 104 kilos, so 229 pounds, just 2 pounds over his weight limit, which is 103 kilos. Or 227 pounds. And then I guess the plan after that is to add about 7 more kilos by the time he gets on stage after the weigh-in, which would put him around 242 on stage after carbing up and rehydrating a little bit. So I think Ramon looks really impressive in these updates, particularly his back, I think looks really detailed. He looks like he's in pretty good condition for 4.5 weeks out. Like I said, according to the Brazilian comments here, he's only 2 pounds over the weight limit, so he's pretty lean here. But the real question is, will we see a better version of Ramon than what we saw at the Arnold Classic Ohio? Because what we saw in Ohio, it was not necessarily that Ramon was downsized or there was anything really wrong with his physique. It was just that he missed the mark with his conditioning. So there's not really any massive changes that we're looking to see from Ramon's physique in terms of bringing up a certain body part or something. I would say, maybe his posing still needs some work. I think that was a big point of criticism for him at the Arnold, was that his posing just wasn't very polished, so that's something he could work on. But as far as his actual physique, he can't really be much bigger. He's already really pushing that weight limit. There's not really a whole lot of room for him to add size anywhere, so it's mainly just a conditioning thing that he would be looking to improve from the Arnold. So without the ability to really make massive changes to his physique other than conditioning, will we see a different outcome at the Olympia than what we saw in Ohio? Because like I've said many times, that big upset in Ohio where Wesley beat Ramon, I think, yes, a little bit of it was Ramon being off, but I think the biggest factor in that was that Wesley looked so much better than he'd ever looked before. And so Ramon has 2 challenges ahead of him at the Olympia. Number 1 is to fix what happened in Ohio and not be beaten by Wesley at the Olympia. But number 2, with Ramon having been in that runner-up spot at the Olympia multiple times now, can he not only overcome Wesley, but can he do enough to win and overcome Chris Bumstead? That's the real question. So those are the 2 hurdles. And it's interesting because I even saw one of the Brazilian pages, and you guys know Brazil, they're crazy about Ramon. They love Ramon. He's their guy. I saw one of the Brazilian bodybuilding pages throw up a comparison picture of Wesley and Ramon in the back double bicep. And granted, different lighting. Wesley's leaning back a little bit more, hitting it at a kind of different angle. But I think even the Brazilian fans in that comment section were saying Wesley looks pretty damn impressive compared to Ramon in the back poses. And I think so too. But granted, in none of these updates from Ramon or Wesley can we see their legs. And I think the legs are probably Wesley's weakest point. And Ramon has pretty good legs. So that is one factor we can't overlook because we're not seeing either one of these guys' legs in these updates, and I think that's something that Ramon has the advantage over Wesley on. But I guess that's my question for you guys is after seeing this first really revealing update of Ramon, do you guys think that Ramon will be able to beat Wesley, 1, at the Olympia, or 2, beat Chris Bumstead based on what you can see in this update, since this is the first really revealing one from this prep. Do you see anything here that makes you think we're going to have a different situation than what we had in Ohio? Because Wesley's kind of polarizing. It seems like there's a lot of people that don't like Wesley's physique, and they think Ramon is still going to be that guy at the Olympia. And then there's also another camp of people that really think that Wesley's going to be the next guy that's kind of in that runner-up position. And that's kind of the interesting thing about bodybuilding, is just the crazy subjectiveness and how many different opinions there really are. Because there's really two very different camps on this thing, like who is the guy behind Chris. A lot of people think it's Wesley. A lot of people don't, and a lot of people still think it's Ramon, and some people even think it's Urs, or even some saying Breon. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Now, also in classic physique news, we did get a couple of physique updates from Chris Bumstead at 4.5 weeks out. 2 most muscular poses, just Chris showing off the insane size. And this is what I really keep saying about Chris, is that he has this advantage over these guys, that he is taller, so his weight cap is higher, and he's got more muscle as a result of that. He's just a bigger guy in classic physique. And I have the same opinion of these updates as I had like a week and a half ago when we saw those other updates of Chris's physique. It looks like an open bodybuilder. I mean, Chris is a big dude for classic, and I think that's the advantage that he has. He's just more muscular than a lot of these guys. But again, classic physique is also about shape and symmetry and presentation and lines, and just having that much more aesthetic look than open bodybuilding. So Chris has this size advantage, but he's also got all those other things that make him classic. He's very hard to beat. I mean, even though you can't see his entire physique in these updates because he's wearing a tank top, you look at Chris and he just looks like he's in a different league than a lot of these other classic physique guys. Even, you just saw the updates of Ramon, and Ramon looks fantastic, but you don't have that reaction of, oh, this guy almost looks like an open bodybuilder. You can tell Ramon is a classic physique guy, but you see an update like this from Chris, and you're like, this dude's huge. He's huge for a classic guy. He looks almost open. And I think that's one of those factors that makes it so difficult for these other guys to move up and beat him, because a lot of them are limited by their height. Their height and weight class kind of limits the amount of muscle they're able to put on. And that's why I do think Wesley has a shot at being very favorable in the comparisons with Chris, because he's taller and he can have a little bit more muscle than some of these other guys. And he can come a little bit closer to that really dominant look that Chris has. And yeah, it's classic physique, and we've seen, guys like Terrence, these shorter guys that don't have as much muscle as Chris, come runner-up. I mean, Terrence and Ramon are both significantly shorter than Chris, and they've been the runner-up. But I think the reason why nobody's beat him is that size. Even though classic physique obviously is not necessarily a size game, it's about who's got the most classic physique. But I think Chris just has that edge because he's got the size too. And I mean, the proof is kind of in the pudding there. Chris, since he started winning, nobody shorter than him has beat him. And again, it's not to say that somebody shorter than Chris, somebody smaller than Chris, somebody with a lower weight limit it's not to say they couldn't beat him, but so far it just hasn't been done, and that seems to be one of the big factors why Chris is undefeated. And I think we'll go undefeated again this year. I still think Chris is going to win this thing, and I still think he's going to retire after. And I mean, I think he's going to leave a pretty impressive legacy and a massive impact on this classic physique division.